Well, no, I mean, as part of the gathering, there were no major calamities.
Right there.
Yeah, yeah. There may have been other things. There were people all over the West looking for a rainbow gathering. God only knows what might have happened. But nobody that actually made it to the rainbow gathering site in Utah did anything that left. There were no deaths. There were no serious injuries. There were no major water contaminations, even though the government people were deadly afraid of it.
So up to this point, we're talking.
But there could have been easily. It could have been a disaster. We could have had
the third rainbow gathering.
Yeah.
There have been
the third annual gathering
there
of
have
the
been
tribes.
no deaths at rainbow gatherings up to this point. Is that right?
I believe that's right. Yes.
I mean, due to something, not somebody having a heart attack that they couldn't have done anything.
Well, no, there were. I don't know about Colorado at Granby. I assume there. I think there was a birth and a death at Granby. I'm not sure.
A birth and a death.
I'm not sure about Granby. There were no deaths in Wyoming. There may have been. I think there might have been a birth or two.
Probably.
Yeah. I'm sure there were no deaths or serious injuries at Wyoming because I knew everyone. I met almost everybody there personally. There was a small group of people. They were all we had separate kitchens, a few separate kitchens.
How many kitchens at this time?
There was one communal kitchen, and we had for noon meals when everybody could come together for circles and things.
I've heard problems with kitchens now.
Yeah,
so that's why I'm asking about kitchens.
We had a circle. We had smaller kitchens. Dominic had a great kitchen together.
Did you have a calm at
snacks?
this point?
No. I told you before. It was a volunteer medical crew that came together as needed. There were no serious medical problems, including bad trips, because I helped with that. If anybody was had, there were no bad drugs.
Okay.
There were no bad psychedelics. There were no hard drugs at all. There were no bad vibes. Period.
Alcohol?
There was almost no alcohol.
Almost no alcohol.
I didn't see any.
Okay.
There was a little bit of alcohol that showed up in terms of single individual containers that never got into the gathering because it got drank up on the spot by whoever who was not organized at all. There was no organized Shantasina, which I later became part of an organized Shantasina on many times with an explicit purpose of drinking any alcohol that showed up. This just happened because most of the people there did not bring alcohol. There was very little alcohol, and I don't recall seeing any down in the gathering site, although there was a little at the parking lot. There was a little that it was well within the spirit of the gathering that if there was any there, it got consumed immediately before it could be a problem, and nothing really made it there. It was a long way in, and everybody, 99% of the people there were really into the whole idea of it without being organized. That was the whole point.
Okay, let's go now to the next year. Or go to your letter here for a minute.
Yeah, let's go back to the letter. I was just talking about how the vision councils came about. It was the first one was in Utah, and it was almost out of necessity because something bad could have happened. People could have been freaking out in the middle of the desert. It's a wonder that somebody didn't have heat stroke and that somebody didn't die or something.
Just one more question.
Yeah.
How many people were in this council that made this decision?
Well, it came and went. It was hard to say exactly, but most of the time there were several dozen people.
Several dozen people.
And at the peak point there may have been.
You said there was a consensus.
It went on for hours. You
said there was a consensus.
Yeah.
So at the end of this thing, you came up with some kind of vote. Only it's not a vote because you're not taking ballots and all that. But a consensus means that everyone there agreed. How many people, when you finally decided that everybody had to agreed, how many people agreed?
Well, see, that's a little hard to say because at that point, there were probably a few dozen people that actually were there taking part in that consensus, but there were other people that were there that were doing what they were doing that needed to be done. No, that had been part of the council off and on. That knew that the consensus.
So you're talking 36 people.
Well, no, I mean I'm talking 100 to 200 that if they had that knew the consensus was being reached, that if they had had any objections to it, could have blocked.
Okay, so a couple hundred.
No one well, it depends on how you count it. A few dozen, anyway from a couple of dozen to a couple of hundred, as far as
Actual.
There were actually
that they had.
There were a couple hundred people there that realized what was going on, and that if only by silence or by refusing to participate further, gave their approval to it.
Okay.
There was a consensus by agreement where nobody objected to have a gathering the next year in Arkansas. Which turned out to be the fourth annual
kind of like
rainbow
the Senate does
gathering of the tribes.
Yeah.